Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about the four worlds and the importance of them in the tree of life. I want to introduce you to the real synthesis that is behind human design and how the four worlds are part of the process of individuation in a human being. The process of individuation is a psychological term, and it means that over our lifetime, we develop increasing this is weird. We develop increasing sophistication in how we view the world, on how we relate to the world. And as we evolve in our consciousness and move up into an actualized self, we refine our perceptions, our way of being, and we integrate spirit increasingly into our consciousness. So today, what I want to share with you is, and let me open it. I want to share some images that will help you visualize the way the evolution of consciousness begins to move in your unconscious, and how the body map shows us the pathways through which we need to integrate information as we experience challenges in our life. So I'm going to share some images. The first one being the four body maps. I went over this yesterday, but I want to go over it with you again because it's so crucial that when you're looking at the four worlds and the matrices, which are part of what the Tree of Life tells us is how we operate in the world. According to the Tree of Life, we live in the mental world, the spiritual world, the emotional world, and the physical world. Now, in the human design system, Ra only worked primarily with the mental world, a 64-gate matrix that has, if you don't count the 20, 57, 34, 10 as four different channels, you have the same 32 paths as you do in the Tree of Life. And that's relevant because each path of intelligence in the Tree of Life gives us a task that we must rise to the occasion of in order to move to the next level of awareness in our unconscious evolution to self-actualization. In psychology, we know that development is stepwise. So a baby must go through certain stages to get to their next stage. So, for example, if a baby is developing, you look for them to roll over, you look for them to smile, you look for them after they roll over, they start to lift their head and sit up, and then they crawl, and then they stand, and then they walk. If a baby misses a stage, certain areas of their psychological, physiological development do not move forward. And that's really important. When I was a child, I had significant visual issues and auditory sequencing issues. That came from missing a stage. in order to resolve it, I needed to go back and relearn certain things visually, auditorily, in order to overcome my deficits. Now, the worlds have different functions. In the mental world, it's our waking world. It's the world we live in when we wake up in the morning and we start going about our day. It's the world of work, the world of superficial relationships, the world of the kind of communication we have during this Santa Fe event. All of us are talking, we communicate. It's not necessarily at the depth of our soul, but sometimes it is. And physically, ideally, you're in a healthy mode. So the mental world is the world of our waking reality and the world all of us have to function in order to survive. The spiritual world, which Rod did talk about from the standpoint of the dream design. And the matrix for the spiritual world is horizontal. When we sleep, we're horizontal. So that world is not a world that we're conscious of. And note that there's no crown or ajna, and there's no solar plexus. There's also only one channel from the root to the splenic center, and from there to the throat center. The spiritual world has the 38, 28, 57, 20, the 62nd gate, which is a portal to the emotional and to the mental worlds. It has the 12th gate, which is also a portal to the mental world, and in this case, to the physical world. The physical world has the solar plexus. The spiritual world does not. So through spirit, we can access emotions, but in an ideal world, we've taken reactive emotional stuff from the physical world and transformed it through spirit and the emotional world to spirit. I call the emotional world the emotional angelic world because it has the crown and the ajna center. It has portals to the emotional, to the physical world through the 59 to the 6, and through the root to the solar plexus, no portals, but connections. And we are constantly attempting to be more conscious by taking what happens to us in the mental, physical world and transforming what we feel, what we know, what we do into more of a connection to our deep self and a connection to the core of our being. Notice that the spiritual world has the 515, the physical world has channel 515, the emotional angelic world has the 515, and the mental world has the 515. The spiritual world does not have any other central channels. Neither does the physical world. What that tells me is that when we deeply connect with the physical world at our spiritual core, and we take care of our physical body, that gives us the capacity to ascend to higher frequencies of energy. When I'm looking at noble energy maps, I'm looking at charts that are in all four worlds. And I'm looking at them prenatally, natally, and postnatally. Because in the pediatric literature, it has been documented that in the first 3 months of life, a baby is a neonate. They're not fully developed yet. So in my work, I knew that in order to be complete, it's important to use not just the prenatal calculation that Ra gave us, but also the postnatal calculations. And it makes sense. If we're looking 88 solar degrees before birth and 88 lunar degrees before birth, it makes sense that we would also look 88 solar and lunar degrees after birth. And when I did those calculations, based on the missing one that Rod didn't have, which was the physical world, which is based on the lunar minute calculation, not a solar calculation. And I did that in order to differentiate my twin kittens, who you've probably heard about, one of whom, Joe, died at age 10 of cardiomyopathy, and Ruzel lived to be 18 in perfect health. And yet they were identical twins, so identical that when they were babies, I needed to use a Sharpie to mark some place on their body so I could tell the difference between the two. And they were very alike, so alike that behaviorally every way. And it was very interesting to me to see if I could differentiate them. And I did. What I'm going to talk to you about in terms of the four worlds today, and I will give you a document that explains what I'm going to say in great depth, something I used in my classes because it's that important. The human design is a synthesis of the tree of life. In the tree of life, the first path of intelligence is the 32nd path. It goes from Isad, or the sacral center, to the root center in the tree of life called Malkuth. And what you can see in this image of the tree of life is that the root center is broken into 4 sections or 4 worlds. In the Kabbalistic tree of life, they're given other names. Azia, Atzila, Atzula, Asiya, and Bria, Asiya, Atzula, and what's the last one? I'm blanking on it, but it's in my document. In any case, as we go to the root and we think about 4 worlds, the task we're given as we come into physical form and physical consciousness is to use those 4 worlds and their frequencies to become a spiritual being. The Kabbalistic tree of life dates back to way before Judaism and Moses in the Jewish mysticism. It dates back to ancient times, prehistoric times, when the ancient civilizations drew images of tarot cards on their walls, on their floors, in their mosaics. And you can see images, symbolic images, that are delineating the evolution of human consciousness as we evolve in a body. And as we evolve, we get more and more sophisticated in how we process information. So there's a schematic of the tree of life. And what is extremely interesting and of great benefit to know about the tree of life and the way the paths move up the tree in evolving consciousness is that you start with the sacral center, you move to the root center, and then you're going to move up the tree of life in consciousness, primarily focusing on spirit. The task of the sacral center, according to the tree of life, is to transform all your experiences into spiritual understanding and to move your process from an unconscious state to a conscious state. We do that through intuition, through instinct, through understanding who we are as human beings. The four worlds are delineated in the world card of the tarot. And this card is interesting because it depicts the four worlds. And it actually, when you understand the matrices and you understand the figures in this card, you understand something about processing information. When we go from the sacral center to the root, we have three channels between the root and the sacral center in the basic human design chart. So when you look at this image of the sacral center to the root center, there are three channels. I want you to note that the three channels between the sacral center and the root have only the 5342 in the spiritual and physical world. That means that when we're informed in the tree of life that our task is to always move into a spiritual dimension when we have an inner feeling. So you feel something in your body. What do you do with it? Do you act on it? Do you take it inside and say, is this right for me? What is the lesson I'm supposed to learn? How can I use my spiritual, intuitive understanding of myself and my body to be a spiritual, conscious being? Notice that you may feel physically activated, But if you are physically activated, it needs to be spiritualized. The other two channels, the 63 and the 52-9, are here in the emotional angelic world. And those connect up through the 58-18, the 48-16, and go right up and can connect through a portal in the spiritual world to cognition and understanding. So what I'm telling you is that the four worlds that we live in, that we, and in the card, you can see that the physical symbol, the bull or the ox, is turning away from our understanding of the world. We are not here to be locked into physical stuff. We're here to use our physical body to become spiritual. We are here to use our physical illnesses to be conscious and to transmute emotional energy to spiritual understanding and spiritual awareness. In the body map, we're told to move into more awareness. Notice also that the tarot card, the world, is delineating the four worlds. And the four worlds are very much like the worlds that astrology delineates, the elements of the worlds. So here we have the human representing intellect, consciousness, self-awareness, and self-reflection in Aquarius. The placement shows the astrological sign. The eagle, symbolized water, is the sign of Scorpio, representing spiritual vision and the soul's ability to transcend. Now, Scorpio, astrologically, is ruled by Pluto. And it's extremely interesting to note that right now, Pluto has just moved into Aquarius, or is moving in. It's retrograde, but moving into Aquarius. So we're coming into a time when our psychic ability, our spiritual commitment, our consciousness as a collective humanity is moving into more self-awareness, more self-reflection, and more consciousness as a species. It doesn't feel like that, I know, but we are. And all of us who are here in this meeting know that we can't be unconscious and ignore the truth. The lion symbolizes fire. It's the mental world. We have to have energy. We have to have power. We have to have fire to exist in this mental world. We have to lead by example, and we must exercise willpower. The willpower comes in to the physical mental world, where we must take a beat when we are emotionally agitated in order to stay aligned with our spirit. And the bull or the ox, symbolizing earth, is turning away. It mirrors the matrices, interestingly enough, where the physical matrix only connects to the spiritual world. And when it is in the mental world, the physical world activates emotional reactivity and pushes us back into the spiritual world. This is an image to show you how the worlds interface with each other. The spiritual world and the physical world are lunar calculations. They're based on the movement of the moon. That means that we cycle through our physicality a lot faster than we cycle through our thought process. That's a clue about functioning. In other words, if you are physically reactive and you move that energy into the mental world, you must transform it emotionally in order to re-spiritualize it. Now, some of you know that I do Tai Chi Gong, and in Tai Chi Gong, we do figure eights. So those of you who are here could stand up with me, and you can start, keep your feet parallel. Just keep your feet parallel and turn them out a little bit, and then just put your weight on your right foot and turn from the sacral center and shift your weight to the left foot, the back of the left foot. And then as you turn, roll to the front of the left foot and move to the back of the right foot. And that motion of the figure eight moves you from emotional world to mental world, from physical world to spiritual world, and back again. And this is something you can do to give your left and right brain the messages and your body the message that you are a unified whole and that the worlds are unified inside of you. You do not live in one world ever without the other worlds being there. So you can do the figure eights anytime, and they will rebalance you. But I want you to see this because the higher self, the spiritual self, oversees everything. It integrates who you are. And everything needs to be spiritualized according to the lessons in the Tree of Life. And when you do that, you can identify what you are feeling, you can explore what you're feeling, and you can transform it. And I'm going to give you a document that has these illustrations, but also has many, many questions using clean language, which accesses the depth of your soul. And it's important for you not to take what anybody says, but to take things inside yourself and see how you feel and what is spiritual for you.
Dr. Eleanor, can I interrupt you?
Yes.
I have this itching question in my mind. I love the balancing of the feet, and I'm curious if it's important that there's weight bearing in the shifting,
Yes.
or is it possible that you could, like, say, roll the hips in a figure eight motion?
Let me give you the full exercise, and that will make it more clear for you. Okay, so let's stand up again. And you can't see my feet, I don't want that. But put your right foot one toe length in front of your left. And then what we're going to start with, we're just going to shift the weight to the back foot and turn from the pelvis. Shift to the right foot and turn from the pelvis. Just shift and turn from the pelvis. Shifting the weight as you do. And then as you make it smooth, feel the weight shift from the heel to the toe. Heel to toe. As you shift, the action comes from the pelvis, but the weight moves between the legs. Does that answer it for you, Name? Okay. And you do this, right foot a toe length in front, then you shift and you put left foot a toe length in front, and then you do side by side with the feet slightly turned out to, let's say, 11 and 1 on the clock. And the when I first learned how to do figure eights, it was extremely interesting because I couldn't do it. And I kept saying to Marvin, I'm not doing this right. And it took breaking it down to moving from the sacral center and shifting weight to the feet. And the reason I had trouble is because of my learning issues. And I needed it broken down into pieces to be able to move smoothly. But as you move smoothly, it can help learning issues because it's integrating the hemispheres of the brain. So I've also broken down the awareness centers, the ajna, the sacral, and the splenic center, awareness centers. We move from the body, the physical form, to the splenic center, to the ajna via instinct. The splenic center deals with intuition. It deals more with spirit, as we know, than the solar plexus. The solar plexus is the mind feeling instinct, body instinct, body feeling mind. I'm sorry, feeling instinct mind. So we're going up the emotional axis, body instinct mind, feeling instinct mind. The instinctive aspect of the solar plexus originates in the physical body. But the emotionality is part of the mental world. I'm going to stop the sharing. And I want you all to think about this in terms of early development. A baby is reactive emotionally when they're not getting their needs met. When they're tuned into and taken care of, they are balanced and they are generally happy. But when a physical need arises, usually a baby will express it in some way. And when they express it, if it's not taken care of, it escalates. That's emotional reactivity. If we had all our needs met all of the time on a spiritual level and on a physical level, there would be no need for emotional reactivity. We can have emotional reactivity that is joyful. And that emotional reactivity is different. That we tend to spiritualize immediately. There are very interesting ways of dealing with spirit. A number of people just entered the room. I guess somebody, maybe another presentation ended, but okay. I'm going to share my document now. Let me get it opened. Okay. Why am I not? There it is. I can't move this. Okay. There we go. I'm going to share my other document so that I want to give you some questions to work on. The question I would like you to attend to, and I will time you, and I'll give you a little bit of time. Take out a piece of paper and I'll give you a minute to answer this question. Do I perceive the spiritual world as separate from the mental world, or do I perceive that my spiritual values manifest in the mental world based on spiritual laws and principles? I'll put this question into the chat. Oops, it didn't do that. I'll time you. I'll give you a minute to answer the question. Okay. Anyone want to share what you've come up with? Gallery view. Tina?
Yes. So I think I find myself in two spaces. Sometimes when I feel disconnected I'm trying so hard to connect myself with my soul, and it feels like the physical body is trying to reach out to something. And then when I'm very centered and feeling peace, I am that watches the body and monitors it. So this is how I see it.
And what would you like to have happen?
To be always in that space where I'm watching that body and monitor it and enjoy it.
So let's see if we can get you there.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's, hold on. This is, okay, Isaac.
All right. Top of the day, evening to y'all.
You too.
I wrote down, I perceive the spiritual world as a separate world that I can utilize to be, but is integral into the fluidity of the other worlds.
So it's core.
Yes.
It's like at the center. And when you manifest in the world, are you aware of that world as you're manifesting?
Sometimes.
And what the Tree of Life is telling us is to try to bring it into everything you do. And so having the matrices and seeing how they interface gives us a roadmap for how to navigate the worlds. I'm going to ask you another question. When I rely on spiritual values, what difference does that make in what I manifest? When I rely on my spiritual values, what difference does that make in what I manifest? Janice.
When I rely on my spiritual values, the big difference it makes on what I manifest is that miracles happen. It's things are so big and they move without any seeming effort. And everything seems to come to me because something else coming through me. So that's my experience.
That's beautiful. And that confirms that the spiritual matrix and the emotional to spiritual is you use your mind, right, to stay centered. And if you don't know to do it, how would you know to do it? So I think, one of my goals in the Noble Energy Maps is for parents of young children to recognize that their child is a spiritual being and to begin encouraging that and speaking to that so that the spiritual world claims its place, its rightful place as a way of thinking. Because the mind exists in spirit, not just in the waking world. So we flip a switch. Tina.
Okay, so I wrote keywords here: flow, ease, unexpected, because unexpected things happen. And then I feel the invitation from the world, and the world is welcoming my manifestation. It's like everyone else is cooperating to make it happen to me.
And when they cooperate, what difference is it that you're in the spiritual rather than the mental world when other people perceive you?
There is ease, there is deep connection. There is deep connection.
So they feel your connection, not just to
Yes.
yourself,
Yes,
but also
yes.
to their spirit.
They feel
So they
guided to
respond.
participate. They feel guided to participate. And it
Uh-huh.
would be also their spirit or some non-ordinary event that leads them to me, just because I was also in my spiritual world and very connected. It would be sudden, unexpected, but all our spirits would make
Connect.
a group, gather, and decide to connect us together.
What will be interesting, I have some charts that I want to share, unless any of you want me to look at your chart. But what you just said makes me realize that when we are together in spirit with another person, we are bypassing the mental world.
Yes.
It doesn't matter then what somebody looks like, what they believe. We're soul to soul as a human being.
Actually,
And
I have an experience. Sorry.
go on.
I have an experience, if I may share it.
Sure.
Okay, so last year I had few sessions in Qatar, in Doha. I went there and I booked in a hotel. And because of the flow of the sessions, I kept, booking an extra night and an extra night. And then everybody was telling me, you ended up paying the whole salaries of people. Just find a place and rent it. But rent is very expensive there. One of the girls that I went there to make sessions for, I made a session for her almost a year before, and she saw the place that she bought, which is a farm for camels race, a farm that she raises camels at for a race. And that farm had a house. She told me, come see the house, you might like it. I couldn't furnish the place for some reason. Every time I want to go to furnish the place, I just cannot do it. I went there, I felt connected to the place and furnished the place in 3 days. And I ended up staying there for over 9 months.
Wow.
Invited, and everybody was gathering there. We were doing sessions together, group meditations, and yeah.
So it makes a huge difference.
Yes.
Okay. Ready for another question? Do I recognize daily synchronicities that show that the divine exists in the mundane world?
Yes.
Do I experience divine synchronicities that show that the divine exists in the mundane world? Any responses? Tina?
Okay, I think this is where I struggle because most of the days I feel disconnected from that synchronicity, especially when my mind is working on something and I want to figure it out and I want to achieve something or start a project. And then I ended up losing track because I kept following that mental process, trying to figure out how to do something. But the whole project might be not the right project.
So it may require you backing up into spiritual trust. And if you're obsessing mentally, you're not trusting that the divine is going to give you the answer if you go away and relax.
Yeah.
Usually, if I'm in that state where I'm working on something, I do my figure eights.
Okay.
So when I do figure eights, is when I'll often say, okay, God, tell me what I'm supposed to do. Tell me what I'm supposed to write. And within minutes or hours, I'll get a download. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for something that comes from spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the more you notice synchronicities, the more they occur.
Yeah, of course. I mean, when I'm in that flow, it continues for like days. But then when I'm
Don't get
ready,
out of that flow.
yeah, yeah,
You have to watch to not get pulled away.
yeah.
Dr. Eleanor, can you mute Dirk Rob?
Oh, yes, I can. If I can, wait a minute, I know how to do it. Hold on. Oh, yes. There we go. Janice, your hand was up next, and then Michelle.
Yeah, at the moment, I only feel divine synchronicities when I'm in full service. And right now I feel like I'm in a holding tank.
You are always in service.
Yeah.
So begin to acknowledge that your thought process, when you extend it to the cosmos,
Mhm.
is in service.
Okay.
So instead of telling yourself you're not in service and denying it, open to the fact that you are always in service, just at another level, and that will reactivate it.
I feel that what you're saying, the way it registers in me is that when I'm trying to do instead of be, but I am always being in service, but there's the physical activity of being involved in community and being involved in people, but I'm connected to the cosmos.
Visualize the group, a group, and then send energy.
Yeah, okay.
So that you're in service in action.
Okay, that involves also mind and heart.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle.
Hi, should be working now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. For myself, I would say that is probably the strongest connection that I have with the divine. It's not, I get some form of like a synchronous moment every day. It isn't always in the same day. And then it'll feel like it completely drops out and just disappears like a empty, you know what I mean? Like a very empty feeling. And over time, I've learned that just means that it's not ready yet.
Uh-huh.
And then it will, you remember, I don't know if you remember seeing my kids like with their birthdays and their weights, and they're 6 years apart, so They are same exact weight, same exact length, 6 years apart, born at the same time to the minute. So like those kind of things where that was a really big thing for me because I struggled with my daughter on a parenting level, really connecting with her. But having my son, it kind of made a really strong family connection. And those numbers being exactly the same for me really was a divine showing of the synchronicity that, you know, my two kids create for me. And that took
Right.
6 years.
And you know, when children are born 6 years apart, they're not considered psychological siblings.
Yes, and I can see that in the two of them. And you saying that is one of the most beneficial things that I have ever heard, because my daughter used to beg me for a sibling, and then I have her brother and she wants nothing to do with him, you know? So it's like, I'm like, oh my goodness, what do I do? But that was very validating to me because it helps me to understand how to handle it and how to work with the two of them.
They can, your daughter could be a teacher for her brother,
Yes.
a support, and maybe if you talk to them about the spiritual connection and point
Okay.
it out to them, because that is a synchronicity between the two of them.
Right. Okay.
And they may bond spiritually, while on a psychological, emotional level, they may be not close siblings.
Right. Yes. If at some point, maybe not today, or at some point, if you are able to expand on that, on how to talk with kids about that, that would be really beneficial for me to be able to
I'm
work
happy
with
to
them
do
like
that.
that.
Maybe we can do it in one of the classes when we look at your two children's charts.
Okay. All right. That would be really good. Thank you.
Um, we're at the second hour now, and I think what I'd like to do is share some charts and also talk to you about clean language. And I'm not just here to teach you about charts. I'm here to give you some skills in the four worlds, because what I found in my work with, and I'll switch to the speaker view to talk to you about this. What I found in my work as a clinician over 50 years is that communication was the most challenging aspect of being a clinician, because I specialized in couples and relationships and consciousness. And what I found is that the ordinary language we use in therapy just did not work. It didn't go where it needed to go. And I discovered in each exploration that I did to try to gather skills to help my clients was that each world ultimately has different skills it uses. And the spiritual world uses what's called clean language. Clean language is language that has no kinesthetic, auditory, or visual input, so that the person is thrown back into their core in order to find the answer. So the first question that I'll ask you, that's a clean question, is, what do you know about the spiritual world? Take a minute to answer. What do you know about the spiritual world? Anyone want to share their experience? If not, I'll give you another question. Raven says it's freedom from God. I'll give you another question. And when in this physical world, what kind of spiritual or divine sense do you have? Oops, I didn't put the timer on, sorry.
See those things?
Which things?
Yeah,
This?
that's what you wanted.
I know. Anyone want to share? If so, raise your hand. Name. Let me change the view so we can see you too. Okay.
Yeah, for me, I recognize it most when I sense the light in other people's eyes,
Mm.
or when I sense like a body posture like open towards me. And also in the animal world or in nature, that's where I sense spirituality or divinity the most, aside from synchronicities, which have been named.
And do you spend sufficient time in those places? Yes.
Sort of. Yeah, when I don't feel overwhelmed by the mental pressure or the pressure I put on myself. Yeah.
Spend the time before your day starts.
Routinely, what I do is I try to get like all the ick stuff done so that then I have time for myself. So I'm holding the question of flipping the equation. It's being with nature first and then doing the mundane.
Even if you spend only a little bit of time, Marvin and I start our day every day with prayer and meditation. Because otherwise that gets lost in the shuffle. So, okay, Tina and Janice.
So for me, there is no specific time or place, but there is a sensation that feels very very defined to me, that happens around this area from the heart. It's like a circle that is present here. It's a magnetic field. And then when it's there, I can only connect to it and download what's in there.
And can you call upon it?
Yes.
Excellent.
But sometimes I'm not focused to do that. I could do that in seconds if I just
If you focus.
Yes.
Yeah. So as I said to Name, then maybe setting a time every day where you focus to bring in what the day needs to bring in, would be helpful for you.
Yes. Yes.
Janice.
Well, I had written that I experience that spirit in me energizes me and motivates me. And when I feel a flow, I feel also a pull to do certain things, like to do my morning exercises. And meditation goes without speaking because I meditate at various times during the day. I am very fortunate not to have a lot of appointments. But there's a feeling of flow, like now I need to just stop and be quiet.
Right.
Yeah,
So you sense it and then
Yeah.
you take action.
yeah. Thank you.
I would like to share some charts now. Let's see, I'll go to speaker view. I'm not getting to speaker view.
You're gonna go outside. Okay, you're gonna go outside. So I'm just scrolling to like find you like a storm. You don't have one of those like.
Hey, Kimberly, can you turn off your audio, please?
Okay, so I'm going to grab a couple of charts. I can find them. Hold on. This is not working. Okay, so I'll go here. I'll share my screen as soon as I get a chart up. Okay. No. Okay. Is there anybody in the room who wants me to look at their chart? If they do, and I have it, I'm happy to do it. Otherwise, okay, Tina. Let me just find your chart. I don't. Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
I got it. Oh, did I not record? I don't know.
It's recording,
Okay,
because I see it recording.
good. Maybe Tina wanted this. Can you see the, oh, no, I have to share. Okay. This is Tina's chart. Correct? August 19th, 1981? Correct
Yes.
chart?
Yes.
Okay. So very interesting. Let's start out by looking at the root center and the sacral center. Notice that, maybe I can make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Let's look at the integrated first. In the integrated, Tina has 3 formats coming from the root center, but only one of them connects to the sacral. And the one that connects is an emotional world channel. So let's go back to the charts and look at where things connect in the root and where they don't. She has the 60 in the spiritual, she gains the 53. That would give her the connection to spirit between sacral and root when there's a transit, or if it connected somewhere else. what we do see is the 63 connects in the postnatal solar minute, which is the emotional world, occurred 2 days after birth, and is a connection, an attachment. So, Tina, did you feel a connection to your mom?
Yes,
And is she spiritual?
yes, very.
So
She
your
sees-
spirituality
she sees
connected with
visions and-
hers?
Mhm. Sorry.
No, say what you wanted to say.
Yeah, I said she's spiritual and she used to see visions and tell us what's going to happen sometimes.
So the 2 day after birth is when a baby attaches, and often when the mother begins to really connect with the baby, because the milk comes down at 2 days. So whether or not a baby is breastfed or not, the mother's hormones connect the mother to the baby. And it's interesting that it's the 63. It's a channel related to breath. And it's also interesting that you always keep the 4629, and you don't end up with another additional central column. But that says, if we look at the integrated then, that, well, you do. With Chiron, you get, why didn't I see that? Oh, there it is. In the basic design, you have the 214 with Chiron. Now, your north node and your south node, 31 and 41. 31 is here in this throat, and 41 is down in the solar plexus. So you end up being a single definition. Are you, or are you split? This is connected. This is connected. So what you were saying about needing to wait for the connection, your root sacral self is not connected. It's connected to the solar plexus. So you have the solar plexus, you can transform emotional energy through the 59th hexagram, and then it gets to the self. But you have to wait until something tells you that things are hooking up. They don't just hook up. It's a person, it's a transit, it's something that you know. And things have to come together. The split has to be connected. You have, your immune system is giving you a lot of input, but remember the axes of awareness. The heart center to the throat, to the ajna, to the splenic center does not connect to the sacral. So you're going to know intellectually, but you have to wait to feel it in your gut.
Yes.
Or you feel it in your gut and you have to wait for confirmation outside of yourself.
Usually it's mental first. It's mental first, yeah.
Well, why would that be? It would be because the emotional is not getting up to the head. it's going through, and then you have to, so just because you have a split doesn't mean you have a split. It means that if you have all the channels, we all have all the channels, but we have to wait until we know because we know. And
Is
that
it
can come.
Is this why I sometimes need to talk? I just need to vent somewhere and talk to someone about what I've been thinking about, and not necessarily listen to their advice, but just that venting would make me realize, because I did that to my business consultant earlier today. I think I pissed him off because I kept venting, and then I didn't listen to his advice. He's like, are you venting or asking me for advice? And then I told him, you know what? This is the wrong project. This is not what I'm thinking of. Forget everything I told you. But I just needed to let it out and maybe communicate with someone. And this is when my guts told me there is something wrong about what you thought mentally was right.
So you feel it, and if we look at your basic charts, you have an open splenic center, except in the postnatal solar. So you need to take that into account, because when you're around people, you're picking up on their energy. And that energy may fuel your solar plexus, or it may fuel your splenic center. And it may or may not be you. So you're an empath. And there are times when you're going to get the mental stuff from the people you're around.
Yes.
And that may not be right for you. And if it's not right for you, then you need to not listen. And you just said you know when something's right for you from a gut perspective, but you can't always put what's wrong into words.
Yes, like sometimes logically things sounds right, but then I'm not sure. But when I'm sure, I know I'm sure. I do not take any consultation. I don't go and ask people when I'm sure. But when I ask them, I would be so confused, and this is not the usual thing for me. To be confused, and usually if I want to do something, even if it doesn't logically make sense, I would figure it out. I would do my best. I would not take no as an answer. Nobody can tell me you cannot do it.
Right.
So I don't get confused when I really feel it's right, but when I don't feel it's right, I just need to go somewhere and maybe get confirmation, or somebody tells me, no, this would not work, or, but I would feel it first that I am not sure about this.
Do you have an animal?
No, unfortunately. I love dogs, but
if you could get an animal, that could bridge the split. Or going out in nature could bridge the split.
Not much nature around. It's all cement here. Yeah, okay, but yeah.
There is something that could bridge the split for you when you're in that state, other than getting more input mentally. Maybe being in the presence of someone has.
Yeah, which channel?
Some of the channels that you don't have that would bridge the split, but also someone who you trust isn't going to contaminate your energy.
Okay. I think I know who's that. Yeah.
I'm going to stop the share. If anybody else wants me to share a chart, I will. Otherwise, I have charts I can share.
I want to ask a clarifying question, Dr. Eleanor. Sorry, Isaac. Is when you were naming about is it Tina being
Yes.
an empath? I'm
Yes.
wondering if you'd be willing to identify what about Tina's chart communicates to you that she's an empath.
Sure.
I agree, by the way, Tina. Just saying, I want to see it in the chart.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Can you all see the chart again? Or did I not share it? I opened it. I guess I didn't share it.
We see it now, Dr. Eleanor.
Okay, so she has an open splenic center except in the postnatal, and she has an open solar plexus except for the mental world and the spiritual world. So in many instances, Tina is picking up the energy of the people around her. And she's not completely open, but we need to look at the timing. So if somebody in the real mental world is emotionally reactive, Tina can transform it for them because she has the 59th hexagram. But if she's not in a centered place herself, she might not choose to do that. And the open splenic center is a physical empath. Ultimately, when Tina picks up energy from people, if she's learned what things are inside her body and inside when she feels aligned, she doesn't have to be contaminated. She can recognize this is me, this is not me. But it takes having an open center and being aware of when it's you and when it's not you to be able to answer, is this me? Does that answer your question?
100%. Thank you.
Okay. Let me share. Okay. Isaac, let me stop the share and go back to stop share. Okay. Isaac.
Yes, I mean, you can share my chart. That's why I raised. That's why I raised the hand for. Not a
Okay,
particular
let me see if
question
I have
to
your chart.
Tina's.
I'm not sure if I have it. I don't. I don't have your chart up. So I'd have to run it. I'll talk to you about your chart a different time, if that's okay, because I don't have it and I don't want to take the time to run it. Same thing with you, Janice. I don't have your chart handy. So I can do your chart and talk to you privately. So let me share a chart of somebody I do have. I can share, I'm going to share my chart. Because that will show you, whoops. Let's find where I go to share my chart. Okay, this is my chart. Oh, why? Oh, because I did all of them. Okay. Wait a minute. Prenatal, solar, prenatal, lunar. Yeah, this is it. As you can see, in my chart, I have the root to the splenic center to the throat, considered a manifester. And I kept saying to Ra, I am not a manifester. I don't manifest until I know, because I know, because I know. And when I ran these 8 charts to see what they would show, the lunar chart answered everything I needed to know about why I didn't manifest. And I waited. And notice that I have all 3 formats coming out of the root center. And the only one that connects is the 52-9. The 52-9 is in the emotional matrix. And I also have the 54-4, my south node. 53-4 is my north node. And I also have my south node in the 60 and the 56. If you think about, I also get the 63, but I never get the 53-42. I am a master of taking clients who are struggling, reinterpreting their emotional world energy and reframing it in a way that resonates with the soul. The 52-9 is a channel of stillness. It's going to an internal still place. I live in that place. I can tell you that throughout my childhood, in the rather chaotic environment that I grew up in, I spent a lot of time in my room writing, journaling, reading. When I was 7, I was sitting in a double lotus position, meditating and reading books on yoga. That's this drive that I had from the sacral center to spiritualize. The 5818 is a channel of spirituality, even though it's in the emotional angelic world. Between the 5818 and the 4816, that external channel is a frequency. It is gives a frequency of alignment. The channel, which I'm going to work on the 5818, these 3 channels this week in my classes, because the 32nd path came from the sacral to the root, but the 31st path of intelligence comes between the root and the splenic center. And that route to the splenic center tunes us in to the spiritual dimension. And unless we are aligned with the frequencies of spirit, we cannot perceive it. What else do I see in my chart? Well, I don't have a head center, generally. I've always said I can't think to save my life, and I can't. I know, but I don't think. And if you asked me, if you gave me a trivial question, I would not be able to answer it. I pretty much guarantee. I've lost every game of trivia I've ever played. But ask me to remember a client's dream from 30 years ago, and I'll give it to you with its meaning. I remember everything my clients tell me, but I don't remember anything I say to them. Okay, so when you look at my integrated charts, look at how I get the 57, which world? Where does the 57 come in? Solar minute, emotional world. What am I especially talented in? Listening for the frequency of my client's voice vibration and knowing if it's spiritual and aligning with them or if it's off. I have the 5th hexagram in every single chart, and I get the 15 3 months later. I wait, and I said to Ra, I wait, and I wait, and I wait until I know, because I know. Where is that in my chart? Now, when I was studying astrology, I asked all of my astrology teachers, when you look at my chart, how would you know that I've done with it what I've done? None of them could answer. I have a very complex astrological chart. My sun is in Sag, my moon is in Scorpio, and my ascendant is 3 to 4 degrees of Aquarius, with Venus 0 degrees Aquarius right on my ascendant. Venus is in the 48. Venus is in the 58, 48, and 58. Venus is a planetary body that loves balance, and it is in Libra, which makes it very happy. The 10 in my lunar chart is Capricorn, and it's also my Venus. It's Mercury in the 10. I'm very committed to the role I play in my work. And it hooks up to the 57. Where? In the emotional world. So when I first got these charts and I was working with them and working with the developmental sequences and how things come online, it's extremely interesting that between the emotional world and the spiritual world, I know what role I need to play for the person I'm working with. Am I making sense to people? Okay. I had said to Marvin, way before human design, that there was only one thing I would die for in my life, and that was love. But it wasn't romantic love. It was love of consciousness and love of staying true in integrity to the consciousness of the self. And when I was a kid, I was a fighter for consciousness. I would say, because I saw energy, and I'm the youngest of 5. 3 of my siblings were considerably older than me. And my brother, who was 16 years older than me, was not very nice. So I would fight him. And I would look up and I would say, I would never treat somebody the way you're treating me. Why are you doing this? Obviously, it was the 5710, not understanding how people who were not spiritual could be doing things that were emotionally wrong. And that they were not bringing the emotion to spirit. Now, when you look at my integrated, whoops, I printed all of them out so you could see all the composites, but we're not working with that yet. So in the composites, you can see that in my natal chart, my solar plexus remains open. Where does it get activated? It gets activated between the prenatal solar and the postnatal lunar. So what that says is that when I'm relating to people socially, if I sense that they're not telling the truth, or if I sense that they're not spiritually aligned and they're in an emotionally reactive place, I go away. I run. And I'm not an emotional being. I can probably count on one hand the times I've gotten really angry. Doesn't happen very often. But when it does happen, I generally cut the person off because I've been lied to or deceived. That's what happened with Ra, by the way. But it's a composite channel. So it's a relating channel. It's not a personal internal channel for me. But notice how I do sense emotional energy from other people. And then because I get the definition, there's something I can do with it postnatally. When it's postnatal, it's being manifested in the real world. It takes time, but it does. Now, I printed out composite charts for you to just see. So in the program that I'm using, which is my son's program, and if you're interested in a beta non-developed version, you can let me know. And I can communicate that to Charles and he can sell it to you or not. But when you look at all of the composites, prenatal lunar to postnatal lunar, I'm a generator. In my prenatal solar minute to my postnatal solar minute, I'm a generator. In many of the composites, physically, I'm a projector. So all of these charts are what you ideally are going to do in your head. Or Charles's program will print them out for you. But I recommend that you get a blank body graph and you color in for yourself. So you learn about where things turn on and where things turn off. Very important, because things came online over time. So you are predisposed to things coming on over time. I generally, as a rule, tell people not to make a decision for about a week, to make sure you've cleared it with all of your spiritual energy. Spirit does not rush. Spirit has all the time in the world. When I'm doing a clean language session with someone aimed at accessing their spiritual core, I generally ask them a clean question like, and that issue, what do you know about that issue? And then I say to them, take all the time you need. going internal, which is where you need to be, not mental world. Human design is the mental world. And many people who've been told they're one type and that's all they are, have been disempowered by not knowing that they are much more than one single type. And especially for reflectors and projectors, Name let us know that in the 140 charts of the people at the summit, there was only one projector. And there were only 4 generators out of 140 people. 99% of the population are manifesting generators. So what you can do is take your composite chart, your integrated chart, and look at where things turn on and off and what that tells you about yourself. This is about you. It's not about somebody telling you who you are. It's about you looking with some intelligence and asking yourself core questions about the 4 worlds and how you live in them. And live in the spiritual world. Don't live in the mental world. Act in the mental world, but live in your heart and soul. If you're living your life in the mental world, more than likely you're miserable. You're not doing what you love doing. You're not with people you love being with. And I can't even imagine if you're working a 9-to-5 job. I've never had one in my life, so I don't know what that is. But I've been blessed to have designed my life with the freedom to do work I love and love the work I do and love the people I work with. And so work is not work. Any questions, comments? I'm happy to spend the rest of the time taking questions or comments or whatever. I will make the document that I'm working from available to all of you so that you can have your minds absorb the information. And the document has many, many pages of questions to take you inside, ground you, and also enhance your spiritual quest.
I have a question.
Okay, ask it. Marvin has a question he wants to ask me.
So, hi, folks. I've been snooping on what you all are doing here. It's always interesting. So, for me, as a former projector,
I can put your chart up.
so what became interesting for me is when she showed me all the charts, is I could understand myself better if I could trace in the charts how I use the energy. And maybe if you have a minute, you can show that.
This is Marvin's chart.
That was critical for me. How the energy moved in me.
Yes. So I use Chiron. If I didn't use Chiron, we wouldn't have Marvin's 15.5 activated. Then the only definition in his basic human design chart would be the ajna to the throat. When we look at the lunar chart, we see that if we use Chiron, he's a manifester, emotional manifester. But if we didn't use Chiron, he would be a reflector. So in Marvin's chart, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his 8 designs are reflector designs. Marvin never gets the splenic center. And Marvin's first memory is of touching somebody's knee and feeling the pain in his body, in his knee. Correct?
In essence.
So
I was going around putting my hands in a family gathering where my older relatives had pain.
So when you look at the openness, and Marvin is an MD, double boarded, you would not expect that somebody with this, with a projector chart, would have graduated from college in 3 years, went right into medical school, graduated college medical school in 6 years, and did 2 residencies. Not a chart of somebody that open. But when we look at the composites, Marvin is an extremely strong manifesting generator, defined emotional center, defined splenic center, and the splenic center is skills and depth and talent, connection to all animals through the 1762, good storyteller, emotional manifester. And let me tell you, if Marvin gets angry and emotionally reactive, you'd better watch out. And he has, over the years, learned to channel that emotional energy spiritually, which is why his spiritual commitment to his process was so deep and so intense when we met in India. But he has all 3 formats, not the spiritual format coming out of the root, but the 2 emotional world formats going right up the center, down to the, through the 2551 and up to the throat through the 4521. Very strong manifesting generator chart.
Yeah, I could tell Dra to shut up, and he shut up.
That's right. Well, Marvin didn't know when we met Ra what his birth time was. And Ra was absolutely adamant that he could tell what time Marvin was born. Until we got his birth certificate and Ra was completely wrong. So
It all depends what he was smoking at that time.
probably true. We loved Ra.
Yes.
He could be very charming, and he was a wonderful storyteller, even when he was telling us about his escapades.
He was fun to have around. He was
was.
entertaining. No
Marvin
question.
and he went to hockey games together a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes. Are there any questions or comments? If not, I will do another meditation on the 4 worlds. And Name likes that a lot, I can see. Okay. Let's find a comfortable place where you can be internal. Breathing in through the nose and out through your mouth. And with each inhalation, allow yourself to connect with the divine coming in through the crown and radiating down through your body until you feel spirit in the core of your being. And as you feel yourself, the you who you know yourself to be, when you feel that sense of self, send that spiritual energy down through your feet and then bring it up from the earth, merging in the sacral center, and recognizing that you are a spiritual being, radiating spiritual energy throughout your body with intention to cleanse and release any places in your body that feel stuck. Scan your body, breathe your body, and know that you are a light body, electromagnetic light body in biological form. You are the doer. You are the orchestrator. As you receive instruction through spirit for how you are, for who you are, for what you want to manifest in this physical, mental world. You recognize that you are a spiritual being, and that when you manifest in the mental waking world, you are manifesting love, love of self, love of spirit, and love of fellow man. All of us are spiritual beings, pretending, as Osho said, not to be. But as you reclaim your spiritual core, and as you work with your spiritual core to rid yourself of any false beliefs, of any false assumptions, false conceptualizations, you are empowered, empowered to manifest the full potential that was your birthright. As you grew from a baby, from a neonate to a baby, you were empowered to express yourself. Reclaim that freedom. Reclaim your birthright as a spiritual being living in the world, manifesting your true potential and beginning to reclaim that potential as you recognize that you live in a mental world, a spiritual world, an emotional world, and a physical world. And those worlds come together as a unified whole. And as they come together, you're empowered. Each breath empowers you anew, and each exhalation releases stress and tension completely. From this place, deep inside yourself, allow the energy of spirit to grow and come back into the room empowered, enlivened, and committed to your multidimensional nature as a spiritual being here to spread the light, the love, and the energy of consciousness. Open your eyes, fully awake, alert, and ready to go on with the rest of your day and evening. Thank you all. I'm going to turn the recording off.